Welcome everyone to another edition of Mega Agent Monday. Today, super excited that I have a special guest with us. Welcome, Patty Accorto.
Thank you.
How are you doing, girl?
Good. How are you doing?
Awesome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to share with our people.
Wonderful.
So I know they want to hear about what's going on in your world. So kind of before we get to that, I would love to know a little bit about your journey. Patty, tell us, how'd you even get into real estate? How'd you get here?
So I got into real estate, it's a funny story, is when my daughter was 3 years old and we were living in Miami at the time, and Ashley was actually going to be going to school. I knew that I wanted to put her in private school, and St. David's in Davie was the school that I really wanted to put her in because my parents were involved in the parish. So I worked as an executive assistant for the president of American Bankers Insurance Group down in Cutler Ridge for 15 years, and the company at that time was being bought out. And at the time, my boss said, do you want to continue doing the hour drive, or, are there other opportunities? So we talked about it. I decided to move forward, move to Broward, become a stay-at-home mom with my daughter, to be able to pick her up and take her to school every morning. And the funny part is, when you're in that position where you're always wanting to give back and help and stuff like that. Of course, my daughter's school, they sent out a note saying they were looking for volunteers for the walkathon. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. I can go ahead and volunteer. I'm still home to pick up Ashley, take her to school. And funny that it is that the chairperson of the walkathon that year was a real estate broker, Jim Schinelli. And so I called him up and I'm like, I would love to volunteer on your committee. And of course, how everybody wants on committees, they always want volunteers. So I started working on it with him, and he was like, oh my gosh, I want you to come work for my company. And I'm like, I really don't want to be at work. I want to be home with my daughter. And he says, don't worry, we can work around, come in an hour or two a week and, assist me. So an hour a week to 2 hours a week turned into 1 to 2 days a week to 5 days a week to working when I dropped Ashley off, and I was always there to be able to pick her up. And that just turned into seeing what the industry was like. And back in 2004, I decided, you know what? Let me get my license. It was a challenge for me to do that, and that's how it began.
That's awesome. So you actually started on the administrative side of our industry.
Yes.
And became a really successful agent.
Yes.
That's awesome. So tell us about that journey. So you get your license in 2004. You're obviously a new agent. You're a single agent at that point in time. What's that progression been from 2004 as a solo agent to where you are today with your team? What's that look like?
Okay, so back when I was working with Schinelli Real Estate, what I was doing was I was building the, I would call the systems, how agents got business, what were the top things that they could do. I came across a program called the 7 Secrets to Success. And we built that with Schinelli Real Estate, which were the top things that mega agents across the country were doing. And at the time, I had no idea. I was doing research and I was just pulling things out and saying, you know what, this is probably going to work. So I taught that. And when I got my license, I decided to implement those 7 secrets to success. So when I got my license, I implemented them. And from a solo agent, I have just built on that ever since. The 7
I was
secrets.
gonna say, so what are those 7
Those
secrets?
7 secrets. So personal brochure, back in 2004, we all were taught about a personal brochure. Staying in contact once a year with a calendar. Can you imagine once a year?
Once a year.
Once a year.
Days. Where that's progressed to where how many touches now, right?
Exactly. The other thing was working with absentee owners. Your farm area and your sphere of influence was another. Reaching out to other agents who have licenses that aren't using their licenses.
Referral business.
Implementing systems for the listing side and the buyer side. So again, a lot of the stuff that we were creating back then,
right,
is now
they were all the precursors to what ultimately became MREA, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And looking back, I was like, wow, it's interesting how back then those were the fundamentals, and they are still today.
Yeah, nothing's really changed. And so a lot of your business today really comes from some of those things, like specifically your farm.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about what you do, because I think farming as an art, as an industry, our agents are losing that. They've moved, like, as an industry, we become so fixated on new shiny objects and whatever that new shiny object of the moment is, and they forget the basics. So talk about, because you've been really successful with what you've done.
Yeah, so I started farming basically as soon as I got my license. I saw what the agents that were producing, and back then we were, looking at agents that were doing $100,000 a year.
Right.
I mean,
and that was a big agent back then.
That was
right?
a big agent. So farming was one of the things, and so I said, you know what, it's going to be a long-term strategy, because with any farm areas, it's going to take 12 to 18 months for it to happen, to really start producing. You may, see business once here and there at the beginning. Yeah, it's luck. Usually it's 12 to 18 months. And so since 2004, I've been farming the same areas every single month. When the market was up, when the market was down, it was one of those things. It was like paying your electric bill. My farming was just part of my expenses in business, and I have built those farms out over the
almost a 20-year career, right?
Exactly. So when people say, how are you so successful now with your farm areas and the amount of business, my business, the number one source of my business is my farm areas. And talking about farm areas, it's not just a neighborhood. A farm area for me is attorneys.
So you've got demographic and geographic farming.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So it's not just physical, but I do have farm areas that are demographic.
Okay.
So, just taking a look at that and building it, and constant contact, every 30 days they're getting something from me. I'm doing events in the communities. I'm sponsoring things within the community. I'm giving back. You have to love what you're doing in the neighborhood you're doing it, because then it becomes easy.
Are you doing your Easter Bunny this year?
We're actually, so last year we did the Easter Bunny. This year, it was so popular last year, we actually booked it at a park this year.
Okay.
So last year we had about 150 people want us to deliver the Easter basket. It was fun. It took us a whole entire day.
But that's exhausting.
It was exhausting, but it was during COVID. So actually we booked a park. We're having a bounce house. We're going to give baskets away. We're actually we're having our invites actually be able to bring a friend of theirs that I don't know.
Okay.
So that's going to be fun. So we're looking forward to probably 200 to 250 people, and every child is going to walk away with a spring basket.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's exciting.
Okay.
It's exciting.
So that's clearly one of the big things you do. What are some of the other big events you do in your community?
So the other event, I've been doing our pie event this is going to be the 7th year. I started out giving 10 pies the first year, and I've built it up. We give out about 180 pies the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
I was going to say yours are the Thanksgiving, because some people do it on Pie Day, which was
yes. So we do it the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
They actually come to my house and pick it up.
You were a brave woman.
Yes, yes. So prior to COVID, we had about 75 to 100 people that would attend within a 4-hour period. So it was inside. When COVID hit, our numbers actually went up. They would come by, they would pick it up outside. But again, it's one of those events where people call me and say, I hope you're doing it. Even during COVID, I would get the phone calls.
Wow.
So that was another event that we do. And also we do flags for 4th of July. We do about 200 flags in different neighborhoods.
So you have somebody who goes out and puts the flags out.
Actually, you're
personally putting out the flags.
I'm putting the flags out as well as my
team.
You're
getting some steps in while you're doing it.
I'm getting my steps, and also bringing other kids who want to do it. So people reach out to me now and say, I want to be part of it. I think it's a great. So we have about 10 people that do it. It takes us about 3 hours.
Okay.
And again, it's fun. It's talking to people. People see you. So
it's getting in there and being kind of tight-knit with that community.
Exactly.
So to supplement those events that you do, is it a monthly postcard that you're doing, or what do you kind of like, because you're sending out something to the community, right? Is it physical or digital?
So we do both. Mm-hmm. So every 30 days they're getting at least one direct mail. Sometimes in a month they may get more than one, depending on what's happening, our events, if we're doing a food drive, if we're doing a fundraiser for a specific charity, they'll get more postcards from us. We're also sending out a lot of equity analysis letters stating people can call me to find out what their house is worth. Not like I'm looking to, sell their house tomorrow.
Right.
Or they're looking to buy. Just giving back so people really know what the value of their house is right now, because so many people have gotten so much equity over the last 2 years of the crazy real estate market.
Yeah.
And I just don't want people just thinking that their house is worth this small amount when a lot of communities have actually doubled in price.
Yeah, funny, as an industry, we assume the consumer knows what their house is worth, because there is a segment that will go online and they check the AVMs and they check that. That's not the great majority of everybody, and so there's many people out there that really they're not clued into what their home is worth, and they don't realize how much equity they may have.
Yeah, I actually had an instance last month where I was talking to somebody about selling, and they're like, "Oh, my neighbor wants to buy the house," and I'm like, "Well, what is the neighbor willing to offer you?" And it was $75,000 less than what they could have gotten on the market.
Wow.
So we listed the house. We actually got them $30,000 over our list price. So they walked away with a substantial more amount of equity.
Huge.
And it's just, again, is just bringing that information to them, because they don't know what they don't know.
So what's the equity analysis letter? What does that look like, that equity analysis letter? Because I know James has been talking about it, everybody's been seeing it, but I don't know that everybody knows what that looks like.
Yeah, so the equity analysis letter is just basically saying, do you want to know what your house is worth? It's a free service that we do. And we tell them up front, we're not looking to, sell your house. We're not looking to turn you into a buyer right now. We just want to provide information to you as to what your house is worth. For several reasons. Number one, insurance purposes, you want to make sure that your house is insured for what it is. Number two, just to know what your equity is, because again, it's one of your largest assets, and a lot of times people don't realize that the housing has gone up the way it has.
Right.
So really just reaching out to people, and people always want to know when it benefits them with money in their pocket, so it's a great resource. And also a lot of people, still are at 7% interest rates, which you wouldn't think. But
people didn't pay attention. Life goes on. Like Patty, people are living. They're busy. They're not looking at some of these things that could save them significant money.
Yeah, and even though they're paying their mortgage every month, they're like, "Oh, that's a bill. I don't even look at it. Who cares?"
Right, because it's automatic.
But if you could cut off
right
some interest on it and start paying that towards principal, their house is going to get paid off quicker.
Absolutely.
So again, just providing items of value to people, and showing them that you care about them. Again, in this industry, it's about caring, not about always the next commission check,
right,
or the next house
that
you're
will
gonna
always
list
come.
Yourself.
That shows up eventually. If you show enough people how much you care, the money always takes care of itself. It does, 100%. I believe that. Those postcards that you do, this is a system, right? You're not like thinking every month, what am I going to send out? What's your system look like?
So my system is, and I got a lot of agents that ask me, and it's pretty funny, but in the second week of December, I actually put my schedule together for the following year. I give it to my mailer, my print house, and he coordinates it. He knows on what day of the week what postcard's going out. He informs me a month before when we're low on postcards. Basically, I don't touch it. It's a system. It's knowing that it's going out, you're being charged for it, and it just continues to go. So over the last 6 years, I've had him, and it just becomes a very easy thing. I know when they're going out, and I know my phone starts ringing on that day. But you have to do it where you're gonna forget about it, and you also have to do it. What I have found in talking to other agents is you have to know that regardless if you have a closing this month or not, that postcard is going out and you're being charged.
Right. So you got a budget for that, right?
Exactly.
So you've got to set your financials up knowing what this is an expense of your business, but it should return significant.
Yeah. And 12 to 18 months for farm areas to really start producing. And people they want to do it 1 month, 2 months, 5 months, or they want to do, 25,000 at one time. And then this month is up, and then next month they don't have the budget to do it.
Right. It starts small and be consistent. It's just like the same thing as physical farming, right? A farmer doesn't till his soil one day and think the next day I've got a crop I can pick. till the soil, put the fertilizer down, put the seeds down, water it, and that takes several months for that to kind of happen. If it happens sooner, it's usually a fluke. It's like
it is.
you got lucky that somebody was thinking about.
We actually implemented a new direct mail right when COVID hit. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna farm a whole entire zip code for people that are suffering with COVID and the forbearance and all that stuff. So basically, at the start of COVID, we started that. We're still running it. And we've done that since we started with it, and the return on that has been phenomenal. But again, 2 years later, it's not like it happened overnight.
Right. That was actually very smart, because there's many people out there that took those forbearance programs and still to this day don't even realize what that did and how much additional interest that put onto their mortgage. And a lot of people don't realize that there's opportunities out there and they've got equity, so don't let that house get foreclosed on. Please don't wind up in that situation.
Exactly. And again, it's just putting the message top of mind to these sellers.
Awesome.
Or these owners. So that they know that they can reach out
and their
at
options.
any time.
Right.
So I always tell people I'm their real estate resource. Anything that they have questions on. And I have found that has just been a game changer over the years.
Awesome. What have been your biggest lessons in this business?
So my biggest lessons I've learned, there's a couple. Relationships with other agents is probably the top one. To stay in good relationships with other agents. We're all in this business together. Prior to Keller Williams, and it's our culture at Keller Williams, but prior to that, everyone was out for themselves, and God forbid you shared something with somebody or you were nice to the other agent. It was about you, and that was it. I feel right now in the market that we're in, relationships with agents are the top priority. And I tell my team all the time, because as we get listings, as we have buyers, knowing the other agents, being able to call agents calling me saying, Patty, what's coming up in this area that you specialize a lot in? Those are the deals that are being done. So what I encourage agents to do, and even my team members, go visit open houses that other agents are having. Pick up the phone, and as one of your contacts for the day, just call and reach out to an agent that we see all the time. Just see how they're doing. The agents, to me, are just like a buyer or a seller. They're that important to our team.
It's actually probably even so more important, because we're in this business. I always say buyers and sellers are wonderful, but they come and go. Mm-hmm. But the agents in our business, as long as we're in this industry, we have to work together. So why not do the best possible job and create the most amazing relationships that we can with the people we have to work with?
Exactly.
So I love that.
Yeah. Some of our best, agents that we work with is we do things over and over again because
it's easy.
It's easy.
Yeah.
They're with different brokerages. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's just, building those relationships within the industry is huge.
Love that.
The other thing is being accountable and having systems of, with the farming, like for example, knowing that this is going to be an expense, regardless of if it was a great month or a bad month, that expense is still going to happen. So what I mean about that is, prior to setting up my systems, it was like, okay, I'm going to send this postcard out, and then something got in the way, or got busy, and then that postcard didn't go out. So once the systems got into place and they started rolling, that was a huge lesson. And the other thing is learning. You're going to see me in classes, you're going to see me on Zooms. Some of my friends are like, oh my gosh, Patty, you're in class all the time. But the amount of information and the amount of money I have made by being in a class, just picking up one tip, just hearing from one
idea, something could change your business, the trajectory of your business so much.
Every time I go to a training, I pick up one idea that probably I would say could make me $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 just by picking up that. So
love that.
Education based to me is just as important.
Awesome. And being at those trainings, like we just came back from family reunion, the referral opportunity. I mean, the peer-to-peer opportunity around the country is huge.
Exactly. And Bold coming up. I mean, I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm super excited.
So first time in 2 years in person. This is probably so I've been with Keller Williams 10 years. I go to Bold every year that I've joined Keller Williams, and in some years I've gone twice. So I probably have done bold 15, 16 times. And again, I can't stress to even agents in our office and stuff, and outside agents, that I invite to this training course. It's a game changer. It changed my life financially by going to these bold mindset. So, it's one of those
And right
things
now,
that
this
are
market, we need it. I mean, our agents need the mindset shift
Yes.
with bold.
Exactly.
Coming out of COVID, kind of being more reactionary as opposed to going out there and making the business happen
Exactly.
for themselves. I love it.
And I even tell Dusty, being the director of Bold Happening, and then there's some agents who are like, the money, the 800 Market Center on outside. I always tell people, cut back on Starbucks for a month, and you probably will save the $800,
Right.
Or whatever it is. So.
Starbucks and a couple of dinners out 1 month, cook
Exactly.
at home, and you will make it
Exactly.
fivefold, eightfold, tenfold.
So I'm
Depends on you.
excited. I'm excited to be in the classroom.
Okay.
I know we're shooting for 200 people. The
Mhm.
relationships are going to be wonderful. So again,
I can't
just
wait
being
to
in the
see
right
what you guys
place
do.
and being out there with other fellow agents in our industry.
I love it. Well, as we wrap up today, Patty, is there you've given them so many nuggets, but is there one lesson, any one thing you want to give them, one parting thought you might want to leave our audience with?
I'd like to really leave them with the thought of, always stay focused, have a plan in place, your lead gen, don't just wing it every single day in the business. I think the planning, even at the point I am in my business, on Sundays, I will spend an hour or two looking for what's happening the upcoming week, what needs to get done, what, on a personal level, on a business level, what my team needs to do. The planning is so important because, as you know, you wake up, the phone rings, the text messages come in, and
Life
you
can
have
take you.
but 2:00 and you're like, what did I do today? So
Right.
it's really important to protect your time and really know, what's your money making activities, and don't let other people rob you of your time because we can get down that rabbit hole.
It happens very quickly, and before you look up, you realize, where did everything just, where was my progress? And it wasn't any progress because you let other people take your time.
Yeah.
I love it. That was
Yes.
awesome. Big lesson.
Yes.
We've all learned that. Myself
Yes,
included.
right?
Myself totally included in that one.
Especially with technology, it's just like,
Technology,
get rid of that
innovations.
phone, shut it
That's
off,
it.
and put it in the drawer for a couple hours every morning.
Exactly. I love that.
Unless, like I tell people, if someone's house is burning down, I'm not the fire department.
Call 911.
Yeah.
I can't help you on that one.
So there's really
I love
no
that.
emergency that can't wait for a couple hours.
Agreed. Well, you've been awesome. This was
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you guys for
Thank
tuning
you.
in, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of Millionaire Mondays.